My name is Aurelia. I was born in the hills of northern Italy, in a small Roman town where the empire's power felt distant, until the day it reached into our homes. I lived during the reign of emperors who feared the rise of a new faith, a faith that taught love instead of fear, forgiveness instead of violence, and a kingdom not of this world. Rome called us traitors. Rome called us enemies. Rome called us dangerous. But we were only people searching for hope. This is my story, the story of a Christian woman living under the shadow of persecution in the 3rd century. I grew up in a family of artisans. My father carved wood for Roman villas. My mother wove cloth for the market. We were simple people, unnoticed by the empire. But everything changed when my uncle returned from Rome with a strange message: there is a man named Christ. He teaches love. And some say he conquered death. At first, I didn't understand. But the message spread quietly, whispered in workshops, shared in vineyards, carried by travelers who risked everything. I was 16 when I first attended a secret gathering. We met in a cellar lit by oil lamps. A man read from a scroll, "Do not be afraid." Those words changed my life. By the time I reached 20, the empire had changed. New emperors rose, men who feared anything that threatened Roman unity. Edicts were issued: Christians must sacrifice to the Roman gods. Christians must prove loyalty to the emperor. Christians who refuse will be punished. In my town, soldiers began visiting homes. They asked questions. They watched. They listened. One night, they arrested our presbyter, the man who taught us the scriptures. They dragged him through the streets. I still remember his voice: "Forgive them." The next morning, his house was sealed. His scrolls were burned. Fear settled over us like winter fog. I kept my faith hidden. I prayed while grinding grain. I whispered psalms while fetching water. I traced a small cross on my wrist with my thumb, a gesture no Roman would notice. But hiding faith is like hiding breath. It wants to escape. One evening, a neighbor saw me comforting a crying child with words from the gospel. She didn't say anything, but her eyes changed. The next day, soldiers came. They searched my home. They found nothing: no scrolls, no symbols, no proof. But suspicion was enough. I was taken to the magistrate. The magistrate was a tired man, worn by years of imperial orders. He asked me, "Do you follow the teachings of Christ?" I hesitated. My heart pounded. I thought of my mother, my father, my little brother. If I said yes, I could lose everything. If I said no, I would lose myself. I whispered, "I follow the path of love." He stared at me. That is not an answer. But he let me go, not out of mercy, but because the prisons were already full. I returned home, but I knew I was being watched. Weeks later, soldiers raided Christian homes across the region. They came at night, breaking doors, dragging people into the streets. I heard screams. I heard prayers. I heard the sound of sandals on stone. My family hid me under the floorboards. I stayed there for hours, listening to the chaos above. When dawn came, half the town was gone. I emerged shaking, covered in dust, but alive. My mother held my face and whispered, "Live. And keep the light alive." I fled that same night, traveling with a small group of believers toward the Alps. We walked through forests, crossed rivers, slept in barns offered by strangers who shared our faith. In a mountain village, I found refuge. There, Christians worshipped quietly, without fear. I became a healer, caring for the sick, comforting the grieving, teaching children the words that had saved me. Years passed. Rome changed again. Persecutions faded. New emperors rose. But I never forgot the nights of terror, nor the courage of those who refused to abandon love. I am Aurelia. I lived in the shadows of Rome. I survived because others protected me. I kept my faith because it gave me strength. And I tell my story so that no one forgets what fear can do, and what hope can endure. The empire tried to silence us. But faith is not a flame that can be extinguished. It is a fire that spreads quietly, from heart to heart, from life to life. And even in the darkest century, it kept burning.
I have copied many lives in these old halls. Kings, warriors, saints. But hers is different. Aurelia of Italia, a woman the empire tried to silence. She lived quietly. She suffered quietly. Yet her courage crossed the centuries to reach us. In these pages, she speaks still, not with the voice of power, but with the strength of faith. Remember her? Remember the girl who hid in cellars, who wove cloth by lamplight, who refused to bow to fear. The empire that hunted her is dust now, but her testimony endures. And as long as these words are copied, as long as they are read, she lives.